Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of Questions and Answers. I'm Roger Conrad, and I'm here a little closer to home in Alexandria, Virginia, and I'm looking forward to taking your questions. So let's get started. Okay, our first question is from Robert, and he's writing us from White Plains, New York today. And Robert asks, what's up with this market? Every time he feels like it's going down, he wants to buy, and suddenly all the stocks go back up. And he's wondering, should he now get more aggressive? Should he come back into the market? Robert, I don't think so. I think that, this is the 7th year of a bull market, for one thing. So it's already outlived a lot of the other, or pretty much most of the bull markets that we've seen. We've also seen some very bad breadth problems with the market, and what that means is more stocks going down than going up. So that's, of course, a big problem. Fewer followers following the generals. And that's a classic sign of a bull market coming to an end. But I think most of all, what you want to guard against is kind of irrational exuberance when you see stocks going up. We live in an era where there's a lot more ETF trading, mutual fund trading, a lot more volatility in stocks where we didn't see that in years past. And what that means is a lot more ups and downs. Now, I prescribe some strategies for readers to actually take advantage of that. One being buying stocks when they're go below certain prices, or we call them dream prices. Selling stocks when they've gotten very expensive. And a third being, simply looking for dips to buy really good stocks. So that's how you should handle this market. Don't get exuberant. Let's look at things stock by stock. And remember, we're pretty late in this bull market. So buyer beware, be careful. There will be a good buying opportunity coming up. Okay, so our next question is from Hannah, and she's writing from Chicago. And she wants to know what my favorite utility stock is for buying in a bear market. Well, Hannah, I've actually owned a number of utility stocks through several bear markets. And I think the hallmark of all of them has been just steady businesses. They've been growing dividends. So by dollar cost averaging through dividend reinvestment plans, I've actually been able to buy more shares as prices went down. So that's been really the secret to big gains when prices started back up again. If you want one name from me, I'll talk to you about Dominion Resources. It's the utility actually here in Virginia. Very solid in terms of the regulated utility, growing that dividend. It's also got some very nice growth catalysts in solar power, which is an area where a lot of people think there's a lot of risk to utilities. Not a lot of people think about growth, so that's good. And I think this company anyway has been very foresightful looking ahead. It's a very low risk company, growing its dividend, and one I'd be very comfortable holding regardless of what happens regarding the broad market. Thank you. And our next question is from Bob, and he's writing from Mobile, Alabama. And Bob wants to know what my favorite growth story is in the essential services business. Now, of course, essential services, as I define them, include electricity, natural gas, water, communications, also vital infrastructure, even some pipelines. So I've got kind of a broad range there. But my favorite story in this area right now, and again, this might come as a surprise to some people, is solar energy. I think really we're used to thinking of solar energy. If you've been around the energy industry long enough, the common misconception is that it's basically flower power, doesn't really have any economic import. But what we're seeing in the utility business, and again, a lot of this has to do with just providing regulated revenues, so it's a political mandate as well. But we're seeing a lot of investment in solar from the utilities. And utility scale solar, in other words, large facilities that are built to put into the grid, is actually more than twice as efficient as the solar power you might put on your roof. So it's a tremendous growth opportunity. We're starting to see it catalyze earnings. This is entirely opposite of what a lot of people looking at this industry thought we'd see by this time. In fact, a number of people were talking about a death spiral, as we'd seen with some of the German companies. But at least as far as the U.S. companies go, we've seen the adaptation. We're seeing them turn solar into a growth engine. So this is an area we're going to be writing a lot about. You're going to be reading about it a lot in Conrad's Utility Investor. And thank you very much for that question. Our next question comes from Keith, and he's writing us from San Francisco, California. So naturally, it has to do with technology. But he's asking me about what is the greatest technological innovation that I've seen in the utilities business recently. And Keith, I think it's energy storage. And in fact, you have an opportunity to observe some of the major projects out there which are taking place in the state. A company called AES Corporation, which is also one of my favorites, is a major player. In fact, it is the major deployer of energy storage technology. Now, when we're talking about energy storage, we're talking traditionally about batteries, but these facilities, many of which are battery-based, some of which are other technology-based, but what they enable a company to do is basically, basically to avoid building a power plant, because you can store the energy, you avoid the waste, and they're seeing a tremendous business growing with that. In other words, companies, power producers don't want to go out and build a plant, take the risk, get doing all the permitting. They can just build a utility storage scale facility and eliminate the need. So this is a nascent business that's just now starting to fire up earnings for them. I think we're going to see a lot more of it going on. There's a lot of this type of development in Chile. For example, it has tremendous applications in the renewable energy business, because solar and wind and hydro and so forth are not dispatchable power sources. In other words, you can't just decide you're going to take a certain amount of this. They depend on wind and weather and so forth. So storage makes it all possible to make them actually dispatchable, potentially. So again, very exciting technological innovation in the energy business. I think we're just seeing the very cusp of it. In fact, every time I go to a conference, particularly one involved with technology, energy technology, everybody's talking about this. Very hot area, a lot of great opportunities to play it. Thank you. And finally, our last question today is from Jason in Florida, and Jason wants to know who I think is going to win the World Series this year. Two caveats or disclaimers there. First of all, I don't really have a dog in the hunt. I've been actually Atlanta Braves fan for about the last 45 years, and anyway, they were pretty much out of it pretty far back. But I do think, and then the other caveat being, I wouldn't bet any money on certainly what I'm saying, but my pick this year would be the Cardinals. Good pitching, great lineup, a lot of experience. So that's my pick this year. Well, that wraps up this edition of Questions and Answers. Again, please write us, send your questions in. We'll do our best to answer them. And meantime, see you next time.